Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome back to another slice of Truth is Truth. First and foremost, I'd like to rise up all the people that have given me positive support for the first video clip that I put out on Sunday. Enough respect, thank you for the love and the energy. Big respect and thank you to all the people that have put positive comments and haven't seen or heard from me for a while and are just showing some love. So I need to give a big respect and a big thank you and appreciation for those of you that's given me a heads up. First and foremost, I must prioritize, please subscribe. Press that subscribe button right underneath your thumbs up, thumbs down, and click subscribe, so when I put out any other videos then everybody gets it instead of me WhatsApping it individually. So please subscribe. That way it just makes my life easier for those ones who say I didn't see it, didn't get the clip. Please subscribe, and when you are sharing it, let other ones know, subscribe, so anything that's coming out they can also be involved. So that's priority number one, subscribe. Okay. Second thing I'd like to do is give acknowledgement and rise up to all those people that I have met for the first time, having a conversation about blackness, Africanness, and rise up to the mother that I met with the two daughters. We had a very deep conversation. Just want to acknowledge you and thank you for your support, and thank you. Keep locked in, and I'm sure I will see you in my daily routines at work. Okay. I've got a few topics coming up over the next few weeks that individuals have asked me to touch on, highlight, have views and comments. Do remember, I am inviting you to share topics. If there's a particular area that you want to talk about, touch on, or want a view on, not just my view, but maybe somebody else's, because I'm going to do some shows with a couple of other people coming up in the future on particular subjects. If you want a subject to be touched on, or you want to just know a view and opinion, or my personal view and opinion on it, do put that down in the comments area on the YouTube. Just put a little note in the comments area. The other thing that I will be doing is also putting down some recommended books. So I'm going to start putting in the description box recommended books that I think will be good books to read for those of you that are trying to enlighten and uplift your Africanness, your journey, your legacy, the legacy your forefathers have left behind for us to get to understand and appreciate and love, and give us a sense of pride as a nation of people. So I will be adding some good books to read, and if you think there's a good book that's not on the list, or is a good book to share with those of our nation, then please put those down as well in your comments area as well. Okay. There's a couple of things I need to also clarify for the sake of these videos and these discussions that we're going to be having. Now, a lot of people are using this word racial discrimination, and racial harassment, rape. I've got one clarity on this. Because Europeans are very good at using language to mislead and misteach and disedify people, I have this thing about language is a power source, and language can enhance you, or language can make you look like you're stupid or dumb. And Europeans are very good at manipulating the use of language and terminologies to suit themselves when they want to have their own agendas in a particular way. Now, the use of the word racism to describe inequalities or oppressive behavior towards one group of people, specifically those people that are from dark melanated nations, Black, Africans, Caribbeans, etc. Now, there is only one race. That is the human race. So we have species in this planet, on this planet, in this world. We have the animal species, the animal kingdom, and we have the human kingdom. So the human kingdom, it comes underneath the classification as the human race. It is not a group of individual people. It is the collective people that live on this planet called Earth. So for the discussion that's coming up that we will be sharing now and in the future, for me, race is the human race. So I will be using the terminologies people of difference, people of culture. I will be using tribalism, people with their tribalism. Those for me are more accurate descriptions and anagrams and to describe people who are of different nationalities, different cultures around the world. Black people, African people are one people of the same species as European people, which is we are one human race. So I just needed to get that out and just get some clarity and some context into that area there, that particular word there, because we're using this word and it's so easy for the media to change words and their meanings, and Europeans to change words and their meanings as per usual when it suits them for a particular purpose. So don't be confused. Don't allow yourselves to be misedified by thinking that race is a black thing. It's only about black and Africans on the planet, in the universe. Race is one race, the human race. What we have is a disparity in the behavior of different nations within those human races. And that's what we're dealing with, is those constant disparities. And those disparities, the terminology we would use for those groups of people who plan, execute and implement and maintain those constant disparities with other nations, other cultural groups, is what we would classify as white supremacy. So these are going to be terms and terminologies that people are going to be uncomfortable with. There are going to be a lot of European people, Caucasian people, white people, whatever ones want to classify themselves as, are going to be uncomfortable with some of these terms. But this show is truth is truth. Truth is truth, because that's what I deal with. So I'm not dealing with what makes people comfortable. I'm dealing with what is actually truthful and what is actually factual. That then brings me again into my next little point before I go into the actual subjects of factual truth, historical truth. In the past, European scientists and experts and scholars used to be very clear about information, historical information being based on facts. So for them, information or factual information from etymologists, archaeologists, sociologists, anthropologists, based on fact. Somehow, we have allowed those scholars to shift the paradigm. They've shifted that. So where we used to say, okay, let's deal with facts. So now that we can factually prove the origins of the beginnings of civilizations, origins, the beginning of philosophy, beginnings of the first medicine man, Imhotep, we can prove that European people, European history weren't the originators of those beginnings. Somehow, scholars and professors have now shifted that basis of not factual information anymore. Philosophical information has now come forward. Philosophical information is now being used as factual information. And this again is another form of misedifying a ones. So for me, I'm always about factual information, particularly historical information, because the origins and the foundation of the beginning cannot change. It hasn't changed. What has changed is the Europeans' interpretation and the subjugation of what Europeans choose to put out as truth, factual truth, and what they choose to erase as factual truth. Hence why I was saying in the previous clip that maybe pulling down some of these statues can be counterproductive, because if you can't see it, for Europeans, it didn't happen, it didn't exist. So there are a few of those kind of little quirky things. I think it's important that people in general, when you're reading your medias, you're reading your newses, you're listening to these so-called information being given out as scientific facts or facts, you need to question whether or not are they facts, or are they just opinions and philosophies that people are putting forward to be deemed and presented as facts. Because for somebody who has also looked at our story, looking at the works our forefathers and scholars have left behind for us to read and understand and appreciate, I realise that the paradigm is moved from factual, now that we can turn around and say, yeah, black people are confident to know that we were the beginning of the first of civilization. We know that the Upper Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, all those dynasties, over 500 dynasties that were in Kemet or Kemet and Kush and all these places were actually facts of black existence before the Europeans, and not just recent Europeans, existence for thousands and thousands of years before the involvement and interaction of the Europeans. And when we talk about Europeans, we're talking about Romans, we're talking about that, all that period of time. When we're looking at architecture around Europe, Colosseums in Rome, those are African ancient Kemetian designs and architectures, clearly existed before the European philosophy, Greek philosophy. I am going to come back to that whole subject, so before anybody sends me messages and say, Sister A, can you deal with that whole Greek mythology and stuff like that, I will come to that, and I will come to that a little bit in the future, because I'm going to also get Brother Haru as well to do a couple of shows so we can break this thing down on a proper level. We talk about the mystery system, the Kemetian systems, and all of these understanding of what philosophy is, what harmony is, what balance is, what all of these concepts are. We need to question, how did Europeans, Greece, how did they get these concepts? Because clearly, if ancient Africa and Kush and all these other temples and dynasties existed before the Greeks and the Romans, we need to understand why, and question why, should I say, why we believe, some of us, that the Greeks and the Romans gave us these knowledge of philosophy and overstanding in the world. Clearly not the case. So it is important to look at factual evidence, truth, historical evidence that has been there from the beginning, because this is what professional European scholars have spent trillions of decades trying to wipe out and pretend it didn't exist. Or if they come across back in the day when Pythagoras and Aristotle were studying in Kemet, i.e. for those who people don't know who Kemet is, it is now renamed Egypt. So Kemet, Kush, all these places are all original names of these African nations in Kemet, Egypt, before it got taken over by Egypt. So there is a lot of foundational information that is important to understand when you are looking at and trying to find a sense of your own self-identity, your importance of the richness that your forefathers contributed, the establishment of what we look at in the world today as a civilization. So those are just a couple of things that I just wanted to point out, because in the forthcoming videos that come along, I'm going to be using certain terminologies, and sometimes people may not understand why and how I'm using those and in what context I'm using that language in. It's a separation. For me, it's a separation, and it has to be a clear separation. We're one race. We are multiple nations of people, and we are multiple cultures of people. One tiny little example. One region of Africa, South Africa, has 11 languages. So if one small region of Southern Africa has 11 different tongues, languages, that is spoken. Remember, Africa swallows up China, swallows up the USA, swallows up half of the entire continent of Europe X amount of times over. So it shows you that we are not just a gene of simplicity, we are a gene of multi-complexness. African genealogy is the multi-complexness. So we've got multiple language, multiple cultures, multiple different tribal practices, behaviors, etc. We're not just black, and that definition of black based on a European label of what feels comfortable for them to put us in a box. So that's where I'm going to be beginning when these videos are going forward. I want that to be your concept of understanding your language differently from a language that has been put on you, and descriptions and definitions and meanings that have been placed upon us as a nation of people. Okay, so first and foremost, big up the Windrush. 2018, if I remember, was the 70th anniversary of the Windrush journey for a migrant, for our parents coming here as migrants to the country. I'm going to come back to that because there are some things that I want to touch on that and show on that as well, and what's changed since then. Have there been improvements, and how has that improved and benefited the children of the Windrush era? I am one of those generation of the first migrant children from the Windrush era. So there's quite a lot of stuff that I'm sure we can all share and talk about together. So because that is quite in depth, I'm going to come back to that. I just now want to touch on a couple of points that people have asked me in the community to touch on. First thing is the man Hancock thing about the vaccine, and the second thing is Dominic Raab not taking a knee discussion. Okay, this is directly to Matt Hancock. Why do you, as a European group of people, feel that black, African, Caribbean people on the planet, whatever you define them as, and the dark-skinned people of the world are the solutions to your sicknesses? Why are we the solution to your sicknesses? No disrespect to any European that's got love for the African gene and the African people, whether they're from the Caribbean or Africa, any of the African continents. Nothing, I'm not personalizing this. I'll make this look at this picture. Every time there is a crisis to do with European health and well-being, when they're suffering from a disease, a degenerative disease, and there's no cure, when they are ill with things like syphilis and you can't find a solution. Recently we had bird flu, swine flu, all kind of flu and pandemic that they encourage people to get vaccines for, only to be told that 2.3 million pounds of stockpile of vaccines that weren't taken up because they can't be used, they're no good, doesn't cure the disease that they were designed for, were then shipped down to African nations. We seem to be the only nation on the planet that somehow can solve the illnesses of European people when they're in a position of they're dying. Their cells are dying. Their bodies are dying. We, Matt Hancock, we African people of melanated skin is not your solution to your dying and your sickness. We're not your solution. When black people and African people suffer from our own conditions, for example, like sickle cell, I don't see any European experts, doctors, scientists, scholars going out of their way to find a solution for that and then give the solution to yourselves, Europeans, and say, let's test you lot first to make sure it works for African and Caribbean people that suffer from sickle cell. That practice doesn't seem to happen. But if you've got cancers, it's black African nations that you test your experiments on. We're not your lab rats. We're not your lab rats. My argument is If you as a group of nation people with the lowest level of melanin are suffering from cancers due to sunburn, sun cancer or different forms of cancer, whatever vaccine, whatever experiment you want to spend millions of money in our laboratory creating, test it on your own selves and your own families. Boris Johnson's ass dropped down the other day from so-called coronavirus. Why isn't he the first person to take the vaccine? Why are you not standing up on a daily conference, turning around and saying to the whole of the nation and the world that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, who had the disease and nearly dead, is going to be the first guinea pig to touch the vaccine? That's the priority, Nate. That's the priority. The priority ain't us. The only reason why it looks like African Caribbean people in the UK are suffering is because your statistics writes those reports. That doesn't necessarily mean it's factual nor truthful. When we go into hospital for a knee, a back, an eye, somehow our elders who are supposed to have an eye operation within the space of 10 minutes of walking through your door are now got corona written on their files. But they didn't walk in there with corona. They were tested before they came in there to make sure they didn't have corona. But since they've gone through your door, somehow their records say corona. So we're not stupid. We're not stupid. And your days of handling us and treating us here in the UK like we are over. They're over. We're not having it. We're not having that. The same Windrush people, our family members, our forefathers, you keep want to put at risk to save your own skins. We have a different level of melanin. Someone on a whole you think say theory results is going to help you. Isn't that the reason why you're testing the black African melanin, the levels of melanin that dark melanated people around the world have? Isn't that why you're always using it anyway, to see the reaction and why we're able to beat illnesses and beat diseases and beat them in a natural, holistic way? What is it about our pituitary gland and our melanin that makes us so highly powerful when it comes to conquering diseases of the body? Our solution cannot be your solution. What we are born and gifted with. We're gifted. We didn't choose. The Most High and the Creator gave us the gift of what we've got. And no matter how you try to take it from us as Europeans and scientists and our kind of trickery, we're here, innit? We're fighting diseases without your medicines. We're going back, and we have always gone back to black. Imhotep, first ancient god and doctor of medicine. Deity teaching about herbs and bushes. So when we think about our grandmother and you're in a Jamaica and you think about Cersei and our kind of bush and aloe vera, when you're in Africa and you're pounding certain herbs and that is from the original ancient Kemetic teachings that are genetically being handed down to us, traditionally being handed down to us as a nation of people on this planet. We're not taking nothing from any other nation. We didn't take that, strip that, rob them from it and do that from any other nation. It is naturally ours. And we are proud of our knowledge of holistic health, how to heal ourselves culturally. All of us are proud of knowing that that works. We know when our children are sick, we're not part of the Western concept. We have to run and pump them up with Calpol. We know how to heal our bodies. What we have a problem with is the West making our bodies ill and us suffering from the same illnesses now in recent times as the same as European diseases of the body. We never used to have that issue. Now we've got that issue. Lifetime and how much decades of sitting down in it and flexing in it and eating a diet of it must have an effect on our melanin, must weaken our levels of melanin, our immune system, our metabolism, our bloodstream. So it's not as simple as people think it sounds. It's a very complex complex thing and does need to be dissected. Matt Hancock himself knew what he was saying was unrighteous, unrighteous and nasty. Rewatch that video with that announcement. You can see it in the whole of his aura, and for those of us that are spiritual people and read the spiritual frequency, you could see it on his aura when he even was saying, particular groups that we are. He couldn't even talk it because he knew what he was doing and what he was saying to Black and African people in the UK. That we are going to be targeting you for guinea pigs. My people, everybody has free will and free choice. If you understand what vaccines are and what they do to the makeup of your immune systems, then more than likely, people like me won't be touching that. You won't be coming to me with no vaccine. If you tell me I need to sit in jail until I take the vaccine, sit me in jail. Because the thing about being in jail, you look after me more than I get looked after outside of jail. So I don't have a problem sitting in jail. I get my phone, I get my music, I get my smoke, I get everything that I can't access it. And plus, while sitting in jail, I can get to have a bank account that I can save. So when you come out, I've got money that I don't have now, innit? That is not a threat for me. Black African nations are used to be incarcerated. So that's an easy solution for Europeans to come to and throw that argument to us that if you don't take it, we're going to arrest you. If you don't take it, we're going to do. We're used to your incarceration when you can't get us to conform to your nastiness. That is not a fear, I'm sure, not only myself, many of my brothers and sisters out here in this UK overstand and clear we won't be doing. We won't be taking no vaccine related. Where is the money that is invested in the holistic approach to solving so-called COVID? And the other thing, Matt Hancock and the COVID thing is, some of us know that this was planned. Some of us understand long before it's happened that we know that we're on a planet. And there is a thing that when you're on a planet, there's only so much the planet can contain. So there has to be some form of population control. Well, this is the form of population control that Bill Dottie Gates and the Chinese X, whatever them call you, XXX, more like the Kia, your XXX, decided to do in order to control population and to reboost your economy. Cool. But don't take us as no damn idiots or damn jackasses like we don't have scholars or we don't have the brain and we don't have a higher level of pituitary gland firing to understand what are going on here. We understand what's going on. And again, with European behavior, you push and you push and you push until, guess what, the rope starts to choke you. So we will not be taking no vaccine. We understand what's going on here. And I personally believe that Boris Johnson and the cabinet, all those people who are happy for the Brexit, Rees-Mogg, Dominic Raab, the whole of you should be the example to the British nation that the vaccine is a good look and it's okay. Take it yourselves and show the rest of us it's all good. We can sit down here for 12 months and watch you take the vaccine because we ain't got COVID. We haven't got the thing. We know how to protect ourselves. We knew that before COVID come. We knew that before COVID come, how to look after our well-being while being in the Europeans. We know how to look after our well-being as a nation of people, melanated people living in the UK. From the Windrush period to where we are now. Our parents came with knowledge of medicine, medical knowledge, how to look after their children when they came here and how to look after their children when they have them here. I remember back in the 60s, there wasn't no such thing as black people and African people and Caribbean people rushing to doctors every 2 minutes to get a prescription. At one point, you never even want us on your registers, your GP registers. So we have a way of learning our own knowledge and healing ourselves positively. 90% of our success of healing is the fact that we have a high pituitary gland. And we also know, sorry, I was thinking about something while you saw me pausing. And we also know that our level of melanin is one of the highest level of melanin that our bodies regenerate and replenish. We have regenerative cells. We just have to understand how to feed those regenerative cells. So when we say brain food is about food that feeds the faculties in the brain, the neurons in the brain, helps you preserve your memories. So the memory part of the brain that does all the thinking and the dreaming and all the rest of it. There is food that we have been promoted for years that helps the body stay healthy, especially for dark melanated skin people. I've been a vegan for over nearly 30, coming up to 30 years now, from my youth. Me a big woman over 50 and everybody I look like I'm 20 something, 30 something. That's because I'm not flexing down with what they're putting out there. That's why. When you have knowledge, knowledge gives you power, and then it changes your action to understand what is good for one's own self. So, Mr. Hancock, take your Hancock and take the vaccine yourself and leave my brothers and sisters and our families and our children alone. I have been in the UK over 50 plus years, and I have never seen British governments, British politicians or British prime ministers ever put black, Caribbean, African people that live, breathe and work and have built this country first because you care about us. Because you care about our well-being and our survival in the UK, that you prioritize us first to receive something to make it better for us. I've never known that. So that little speech that you did the other day, trying to put that forward, I know in my hearts of hearts and in my spirit, that's a blatant lie. And I won't be having that. That's a blatant lie. You don't care about black people or ethnic minorities. I can't speak for the Asians and the Indian people then, because when we talk about differences, colorism, differences, that we know that it's a different thing altogether in itself. We know that Asian people, Indian people, when it comes to understanding inequalities and differences in inequalities, are also treated differently from those that are black and African. So Asian people swept up into this one umbrella, the same experience as black African people, black Caribbean. No, it's not, because there's a history to that in itself, with India's history, with a relationship with colonialism, with European colonialism in itself. So that's a whole different realm. That's why Asian people have their own caste issues. They have their tribal issues going on, and that is predominantly because of the involvement of British people in India when it was being colonialized. So we do have a lot of dichotomies going on here that are thrown into one box in Augusta. So, man Hancock, take yourself and juke yourself. Simple as that. Leave my people and us alone. You've never done anything that cares about black people. If you care about black and African people, or people of the people of color, culture in here, this UK, change your laws. Change your policies, change your white supremacy foundation on which you constructed all of these things that create and sustain the inequality of one nation here in comparison to another. That's a Hancock. Now I'm going to move on to Mr. Dominic Raab. I understand Dominic Raab says the only people he takes the knee for is his wife and the Queen. I'm sure you've never bowed in front of the Queen, so I don't know how you've said that. You've never been in front of the Queen to even say you would bow for the Queen. But what you need to know, as a Foreign Secretary, you need to go into your history on the Queen's Commonwealth countries. Do your history as a Foreign Secretary on the Commonwealth countries, because the amount of Commonwealth countries that the Queen owns that are from African nation, melanated people. She herself back in 1960 something, 64 or something like that, when she was doing a Commonwealth visit in Ethiopia, was on her knee, and I'm gonna show the picture, bowing to Haile Selassie and Empress Menen, her and Prince Philip. Oh, but you never know that. You didn't know that, Mr. Mr. Raab, Dominic Raab. You didn't know that, and you're the Foreign Secretary. You don't know that the Pope bows down to African kings and queens and chiefs. They take the knee. The Pope himself, not your current Pope, your previous one, and the ones before that, and the ones before that. You never know that. You never know that when they're bowing down, bowing and taking the knee, it's a black Madonna and child that they're taking their knee and kissing the feet off. And you're the Foreign Secretary. I question how you lot got your job. I question what kind of experience of historical knowledge you need to know to have the job that you've got. So you again need to dress back yourself and put things in your head that you're lacking. Because we've got this knowledge, we've got the evidence, we've got the factual pictures to know, say, the Queen take her knee in our pretty little gown with our husband in the 60s and bow down to a black man and a black woman, king and queen, Haile Selassie and Empress Menen. You will see the pictures because I'm going to try and add them with this video. So that is that one. Put that simply in a perspective. Okay? And I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to come back on the information regarding the Windrush and our experiences. And I'm just going to take a little breather, a little drink, and then I'm going to come back. Don't go anywhere. Do remember to press the subscribe button. If you are going to share this, please make sure you encourage the person or the groups of people you're sharing it with to press the subscribe button. For those of you that didn't know or don't know who I am, everyone calls me Sister A, Sister Aura. Been on radio, been on a talk show presenter for over 17 years in the black community, and has been on a number of black community radio stations in the UK. So if you're sending it out across the diasporas, we're here in the UK, and I've been a presenter here in the UK. I have also done Master of Ceremonies at our events. So we've got international guests coming over from America or the Africas, Ashra and Maria Crazy, when we get Ashra and Maria Crazy, and also when we get people like Dick Gregory, Paul Mooney. I'm one of the sisterins who have done those interviews, and I've also interviewed Lennox Lewis. So there's a lot that we as brothers and sisters in the black community, African community in the UK, that have been and have always been doing works. We've taken up the baton from our forefathers, Marcus Garvey, and our forefathers, Malcolm X. We've taken up the work, and some of us are still continuing the knowledge and the works. There's a list of scholars more than me as a scholar. I'm not a scholar. Who are out here doing the works. So please, 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 do recommend people to listen, to share the video. Send me some information if you want me to put it out there. I'll touch on it and put it out there. Yeah, I will come back to you on creating the reading list, book list of scholars, that books I think for young age groups and older age groups need to get to grips with. And another thing I want to add as well is black businesses in the community. In the UK, black businesses across the diasporas, we need to be supporting and getting back to that concept and that mentality of Black Wall Street. Just so before I take a pause, I also need to do a little clip on black economics, the power of what we call the black African pound, our ability to spend money and make everybody else rich and let them allow other groups and cultural groups secure things in their cultural groups and nations that we as the African black UK still seem to lack to be doing. We spend a lot of money with everybody else's nation and lack the success to do that to us for ourselves. So I am in the future going to be touching on that as one specific thing. But for now, give me a few minutes and I'll be back with you, because I'm just going to take a break and I will be back. Keep it locked right here. Truth is truth, sister. Welcome black, Hotep, welcome, greetings, blessings. Said I'll be back quickly, so I'm back. And I want to touch on the Windrush generation and anniversary. June 2018, we celebrated the 70 years of the Windrush generation migration. So I'm sure that most of you already know and over what the Windrush migration era is about. It's about the UK inviting our family members, our mums and our dads, to come over to the UK to help build back the British Empire after the Second World War. So we're talking about from 1948 till about 1970, somewhere around there. And basically their experiences of having to come to Britain and help build back the empire. So for the benefit of those people who are from other cultures and other nations outside of the Caribbean or the Africas, when we say black British people built UK, black Caribbean people built the UK, that's exactly what we mean. When our parents came here, it was at the time when the UK, London, was bombed. It was shelled, just like how we can look at images of seeing places like Iraq being bombed and left in as a war-torn country. That's what our parents experienced when they came over here. There was over 1 million of our parents that were invited to come to the UK. Key word, invited to the UK to build your infrastructures back. So that's your infrastructures on public transport, your buildings, housing, you're building back your housing, building back your educational systems, building back your sewage systems, building back all the entire infrastructures that is in place today that the UK benefit from, and everybody in the UK benefit from so widely, is down to the hard work, blood, sweat and abuse that our parents put up with and tolerated in order to help build back this little island called the UK, Britain, to where it is today. So first and foremost, big respect and honor and thanks to all of our parents, our aunties, our uncles, our parents that did the works for these people, even though 70 years down the road they haven't appreciated it at all. And that is clearly evident by the Windrush scandal of recent. Imagine that. Imagine having to leave your pretty nice little houses in Jamaica and the Caribbean, because we weren't living in no boxes. Our parents didn't come over leaving little mud huts and zinc houses. They left beautiful homes, big spacious houses, and they came here as young people. That's the key. You took a group and invited a group of young, skilled, educated, articulately spoken and well presented, well groomed nation of people from the Caribbean to come here. You didn't ask for the weights and straights. You're specific. The UK government was very specific. It needed people of skills, knowledge, education. So when we look at all of those pictures and videos and programs that we watch of the Windrush generation, these were people, our uncles and our aunties and our family members who were skilled, were scholars, were doctors, nurses, physicians, philosophers, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, welders, every single art and craft and technical skill that you can think of. That's the crop that the UK received. That's the crop that they received here. When our parents come, look good at the video, look good at those pictures. Do you see any of those people are people dressed in rags and tags? They're dressed sharp. Man and woman and pitney dressed sharp. That's the standard that was already coming here. It's the standard that was already coming here. It isn't a standard that the British people or British culture gave our parents. Not at all. So when we share our parents' experiences of Windrush, we need to acknowledge this and make European people, Caucasian people, white people, whatever you want to call them, make them understand that good. Because there's perception that European people constantly are giving us things. And we are edify and educate them. You've heard the experiences of our parents, we've heard it firsthand from our relatives, from our people, about what they experienced when they came, the standard of hygiene that wasn't in place. How them used to eat out of things and milk and thing out of door and all kind of thing, and bathing and washing and all these things weren't in place when our parents came. They were shocked to see that an English person would bear them skin. You're lucky if I once a year, and sometimes I'll bear themselves in the kitchen sink when I cook food. The same place them I cook food. They'd never seen any kind of people conducting themselves like this in a particular society. They've never been exposed to that. They only got exposed to that when they come here. So the idea in any European person's head that when the Caribbean people came to the Britain, you gave us how to talk, how to speak, how to dress, and how to be polite and manageable. Nothing doing. And we are teach, our parents taught, the same way they were teaching us as children how to speak and conduct ourselves, come in and keep yourself tidy and conduct yourself a certain way. When you walk out the door, you must present yourself a certain way. Our parents taught us that, and we were born here. So don't tell me, say, you taught them. You didn't. So we just make that clear. So, for those people who belittle what our parents went through, and I'm specifically talking to the British government, you should be ashamed of yourselves as British governments and disgrace yourself as the part of the human race to know that a nation of people that came with love to help people that was crying out for help and love, you want to now disrespect them 70 years down the road. My auntie's in her 80s and slogged for this country. My godmother's 90 odd years old, still alive and kicking, and have to sit in this day and time to know all what them got through and all what them put up with. You want to disrespect them by either sending them home. Sending them home to where? When they was ready to go home at the time after 5 years, when them do them 5 work contractual agreement, 5 years, you decided to extend another 5 years because the work wasn't completed. So you extended it 5 years and it 5 years and 5 years until where they are. They end up spending X amount of time here and ended up bringing up majority of their family here in UK. And now you want to tell them to get out and think that we as the children of the first migration and our children, our grandchildren are watching that and think that we're going to allow you that. The British government, you're a disgrace to the human race. You have no shame, you have no integrity, and you have no pride. So if white people want to help our so-called cause, go and talk to your governments. Go and tell them that you are disgraced and embarrassed and shamed, that your own people can treat us who come here, our parents who come here, in such despicable and inhumane manner. Don't rate you. So when you think that black people have got chips on their shoulders, even if they have, you put it there. Most of us are over that, but you put it there. Even if some of us are angry out there carrying it, you put it there. Don't blame the person who hasn't been able to deal with the pain of that. Blame yourself for causing the pain in the first place. Anybody who comes to me that is who doesn't understand the migration journey, first and foremost, you need to be educated that no waifs and strays came here. 20-year-olds, teenagers, young men and women in their 20s, married, just starting life, want to build something, and took a chance and trusted people they shouldn't have trusted to say, all right then, We're going to earn a little money, make a better life, even make a better life to go back home, or make a better life to stay. But we're going to come with a clean heart and help these people. That's how the attitude that they came. Over 1 million of them had that kind of love in their minds and hearts. So how dare the British government sit down with their little conspiracies over the last 10-15 years and have in their heart and mind that the people that they need to get rid of out of their country because of numbers of migrants is the very people that we've been here over 5, 6, 7 generations, and it's we your target. It's we your target. Anything una forget back good, because you've been sowing the seeds to reap the nastiness of your hearts and minds as British people and British government to get it back. I don't feel no way to say that straight up. When we're giving love and you want to abuse us, and you think that the abuse is going to continue and it now come back to you. May I pray to the ancestors and spiritually make them know that we covered. Protect us and guide us from entities like yourselves out there who think that it's okay to do that. There are over 800 foreign nationals that come from Poland alone sitting in prisons in the UK, which me as a black woman, I work money and I pay taxes to keep them in a jailhouse. Send them home. Send them home. Because Polish people, as Eastern Europeans and all the rest of them, haven't spent as much generations here as much as any other person other than the black Caribbean or the black Africans then here. The closest to that are the Indian people then. So it's send them out and get your numbers down. All those foreigners that come from Eastern European that's on their child trafficking, on their paedophilia, on their what you call it, their grooming circles, and they're now sitting down in jail because they've been caught, and I'm paying taxes for that. Send them home and let my taxes protect my forefathers and my current family members them that come here and build this country. That's where I want my taxes to go, to make sure that my auntie and my great auntie and uncles are staying put right here where they sold and helped you build your nation. Not having that. So when it comes to us being powerful people, when we're looking at voting and we're looking at, oh, we're into Labour, we're into Green Party, we're into are them things we need to think about when we are interested in being a part of that so-called construct, democracy, voting democracy, construct, so-called, because it's politics all the way to me, same way, no matter no matter who's in power. These are the things we need to think about, because not only have you continued to abuse our parents and our aunties and uncles, you think you can still deal with us like that in the same way. That mental sickness that they seem to want to keep portraying and having and playing out. The biggest psychosis and the biggest sickness that Europeans have is themselves. They're their own sickness. Everybody else just has to put up with the symptoms, how they're playing out. We're not having this. British government, you should stop calling yourself United Multicultural Society. These words and these labels don't exist when it comes to Britishness. It's subjective when it suits you. So I'm going to honor our parents, uncles, aunties, the children of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth generations of the Windrush generation. Honor, I thank you for the tolerance that you have put up with over these periods of years in order to make sure that your children and your grandchildren could be successful human beings, entities in this part of the planet where we there. I thank you and honor you and respect for that. I thank you for the strength, mental and spiritual strength you have equipped us as your children with, so that when we walk outside of our home, that we can cope with the negative and adversity and the nasty vibration that we will be experiencing and have experienced over that journey. Thank you for equipping us Thank you. Thank you for giving us the strength to ride above the lower levels of so-called European and Britishness. That's why I understand why not of them jealous are we. Me get it. If I was in your shoes, I'd be jealous of us too. Because we're not a warring nation against another nation. We're not out here poisoning people and creating divisions and not teaching people how to ingratiate and love differences, because we're born from that. We're born from the balance of love and harmony. We know the meaning of it in our hearts and our spirits, and because we are people that know, when you know, we know. And we know you as a British government. We know your mindset, and we know your mentality, and we know your construct. I don't know how you lot get up as politicians. Theresa May, your Tony Blairs, your David Cameron. Me no know how or no. Don't feel disgraced in yourselves. That's why we know there's genuine human beings and there's reptiles and there's undesirables. And I classify the whole of those British people and British government that thought that you could handle our parents who helped you in your time of need in that despicable manner. You're a bunch of undesirables. Anybody who is European or white, especially in the UK, who grew up in the heart of the black communities, who are part of the integration from day one, this ain't to you. This ain't to you. Don't take offense. Britain forget, when Caribbean people came here and wanted to succeed, you had written laws. Black people, Caribbean, are not allowed to purchase property. You had laws ensuring we had no access to developing resources or anything that would help us to develop and grow. But yet, our parents made it. Not only did they succeed here, for those of our parents who decided to them can't take the wickedness and nastiness, decided to go back home, whether it's to Jamaica, to Trinidad, to Barbados, then decide to leave and made it successful there. They didn't suffer going home because they left in time to know that their home was still their home when they went home. Unlike now, you want to send our parents in their 70s and 80s to Jamaica or any part them they'd come from in the Caribbean islands, a place them haven't been for nearly 30, 40 years. To do what? That's a wicked heart and a wicked mind. Why you don't treat your children like that? And your uncles and aunties like that? You forget, say, that not only were our people supporting you in the redevelopment of the building your so-called empire, British Empire back, but remember, say, World War I, they are great-grandparents were RAF fighter pilots. They helped you then. They were on the front line with you lot then. I don't see when you're having your, what them call it, Red Poppy Remembrance Day, I don't see all of our forefathers that are still alive here, our granddads and our uncles and our aunties standing up in the forefront. I don't see pictures and imageries of that. I don't see that. So when we honor them, we have to take the responsibility to honor their works. Honor the blessings that they left us with, the empowerment that they left us with to survive same way here in the UK. I don't know how them not feel shame. Why the British government don't feel shame? And yet you're trying to encourage black people to be good citizens and don't feel shame about committing crime or selling drugs. You lot don't feel shame about what you do. So hear what? Sending love and blessings to my great uncles and aunties, whether you're related to me or not. Thank you. Thank you for what you've done for us. And bless you with love in your heart for what you've done for the British Empire and British people. Even if them don't want to acknowledge it and say thank you. So on that note, honor and love every time. Just needed to throw that in there. I know that people already got their own experiences like we all have. It's good to share our experiences talk about what our parents and our grandparents have shared with us, and put it out there. This is the hurdles they've overcome. We're not putting it out there because we're carrying bitterness. We're talking truth, righteousness and justice, and we have conquered a lot of that, because when I deal with it now, when we don't deal with it already. So love, blessings, honor, keep safe, be well, Hotep, till the next clip. And also, before I forget, subscribe. Blessings. Ashe.